Quick transition, thankfully. We move ahead of investigations, etc., and we start talking about what's happening on the field for the United States. As on Wednesday, the 24-player squad was announced by Anthony Hudson for the two Nation League games that will be taking place here in March. There are the games right there. March 24th, they'll be facing Grenada. March 27th in El Salvador. Win here and they can advance to more games. The idea is that they will do that. Probably should get through here unscathed relatively clearly. And now we talk about this because this really is the beginning. This is not the January camp. This is the beginning of 2023. And I don't want to sound like a smart aleck. But 2023 leads to 2024. 2024 is going to be big. Copa America. 2024 eventually leads to 2026. So get on the train now. Enjoy the ride. It's going to pick up some steam, but hopefully it ends with glory in the World Cup that will be held here, and we're all going to participate in that, and that's very exciting. We're going to break down that roster here on the Soccer OG. Check out the Soccer OG podcast where all podcasts are available. I have a great one there for our Canadian listeners. Sid Sixero will be joining me, has joined me. Great conversation about what's going on in Canada, the United States. And we'll spin it forward. So check that out, the Soccer OG podcast, where all podcasts are available. And like and subscribe us here on YouTube. Thanks for everyone who has hit that thumbs up. Let's do it again. So we'll go through some big storylines. We're not gonna drag on this too much. Okay, this is March. It's March in the Nations League. We'll get into this. But a few things of interest that I think stick out. This is the squad that will be coming for after these games this weekend. Then it is time to focus in on this team. 3 goalkeepers. I really enjoy what I see there. I'll talk about the goalkeepers a little bit. It's obviously not the big story here. I know some people are saying only one MLS player on this squad, and many folks look at rosters and kind of it's black and white. And the fewer MLS players they see, the better the roster they think it is. No surprise to hear people say, hey, this is the best roster I've ever seen. It's a very good roster, but it's not because of that. I would say we still need some MLS players. Kellen Acosta's still on this team. Brandon Vasquez has a real shot to be the striker. We'll see what these forwards, Ricardo Pepi and Daryl Dike, can do, but that job is wide open in my estimation. Walker Zimmerman, he'll be dealing with a lot of good young center backs, but I think he still has a spot, and Jesus Ferreira as well. He does things that not many in the U.S. can do, hybrid type, which could be very viable. So the MLS players are there, and there's also 11 players that played in MLS recently on that team. Okay, so let's move away from that. There are the center backs, which again did not feature Chris Richards, did not feature Cameron Carter-Vickers. Anthony Hudson addressed that. Nor Walker Zimmerman. It did involve Miles Robinson and Austin Trusty, which are a little bit of a surprise. And in the midfield, Brennan Aronson is classified as that. Tyler Adams had a hamstring injury, was not going to be called in for this squad. So Johnny Cardoso and Alan Sonora get a chance to compete for that spot. The usual suspects with McKennie and Musa. Forwards, elated to see Taylor Booth in there. He earned it. Dike and Pepi both should get a game in this window. Pulisic, Gio Reyna, Tim Weah, and Alex Zendejas. And that I'm going to start with Zendejas really quickly. But that's another proof of concept signing, right? And Anthony Hudson, who discussed it, said they talked to the club, let him come to the January camp. That's a big part why he's here. So we say the January camp is pointless and rudderless. That's not true because that opened the door for Zendejas to be part of this March team where he can get cap-tied, another dual national in the bank for the U.S. Whatever you want to say about this program, they have excelled at getting the right dual nationals along the way. It is Serginho Dest, Yunus Musa, and Zendejas, who to me is going to be a valuable asset in a lot of roles because he does, again, things that not many players could do. So great news with a final player there. The big story, without question, is Gio Reyna. For obvious reasons, you know why. Many people were worried he wasn't going to get called into that. I thought when he addressed the media in the Zoom call that Anthony Hudson diffused that very quickly. No hesitation on Gio coming was the quote. Had time to carve it out with him. They this is obviously a delicate situation, but you want to distance everyone from it. We all want to forget about it, and you don't want it to complicate things for Gio Reyna. You want him to look at that and learn from it and get better from it. So we hope it may not happen. Again, things like this do derail players, but we'll have to see. Gio's such a young guy. I hope he can stay on the straight and narrow. And the U.S. soccer is doing very well. I did want to say something quickly about Anthony Hudson. And I'm not saying he should be the coach of this team, but I thought he's handled everything very well. I also want to say he's a very striking man. When you see him there, he's got chiseled, got the very statuesque, speaks straight in your eye, doesn't use too many cliches. I liked all of that. I thought he was a straight shooter in this address and the previous one that I saw. And, again, he's result-wise, he doesn't have it. He's not going to be the coach. I think he would want Greg Berhalter to get the job again because he'd stay on the staff. Again, I don't think that's happening. But I want to give Anthony Hudson some kudos because it was a tough position for him to be in. And it sounding from him, and I'm just basing it on this address, he's done the due diligence traveling and talking to these guys and making them feel comfortable. And he seems like a good dude. I mean, so did Berhalter. These guys are all good dudes, and we don't know what's behind closed doors. But I was impressed with Anthony Hudson. Don't give him the job. Just happy to see that. So all good here. And he talked about what lies ahead for the U.S. You'll have the Nations League. You'll have this April Mexico game, which is not on the FIFA calendar. We all poo-poo it and say, oh, that's a lame. But when it rolls around, we're all going to be jacked up. Let's be honest. It's USA-Mexico. That's in April. It would appear the MLS players are going to be playing in that. He talked about balancing the roster. Maybe a reason why guys like Cameron Carter-Vickers and Chris Richards, he didn't really say why. We heard that Josh Sargent might have had a knock. He wasn't on there too. But based on what he's saying about the passages here, that April game, the next round of Nations League, and then the Gold Cup, which I think will be MLS players predominantly. That second wave of Nations Leagues, I would imagine Chris Richards, CCV, Carter-Vickers, who has been one of the best defenders. I think he's been the best defender in Scotland, according to many folks. And Josh Sargent will get a sniff. But there's no guarantees. Because we'll look at the center backs and we'll look at the forward positions. Quick thought about the goalkeepers. Thrilled to see Zach Steffen in there. He's put the work in. He's playing for Middlesbrough, who are on a tear. They are in third place in the championship, the EFL championship, and they're creeping up onto second place, Sheffield United, I believe it is. If they pass them, they have automatic qualification. Zach Steffen is a starting goalkeeper in the Premier League. They've been really good defensively, Borough, but they score a lot of goals, so it's not just Steffen standing on his head, but he's been the number one choice there, and Middlesbrough's playing great. Matt Turner doesn't play all the time, but he's still the number one, and Ethan Horvath, who's also been very good with Luton Town. To the center backs. And Miles Robinson is a guy that you feel really good that he had this chance. And I've watched him a little bit in MLS this season. He's looked great. Remember, he was that one breakthrough, talented, athletic, and granted, he's got a busted Achilles to deal with. But he was the first one. And then, Chris Richards was percolating, and Mark McKenzie was at Philadelphia and making a breakthrough. McKenzie is on this. Austin Trusty, we didn't know anything about him. He's on this squad. I mean, these guys, McKenzie and Austin Trusty, deserved it. Are they ahead of Cameron Carter-Vickers, and Chris Richards? I don't think so. But Richards isn't playing, has his injuries, and Cameron Carter-Vickers, I think a lot of people would like to see him playing somewhere else. But I don't think this is an opportunity to see if they can compete with those guys. Carter-Vickers, Zimmerman, and Richards, I still think it would be weird to think that they're not the first three choices, and then the other guys fill in place. And I shouldn't say the first three choices because I want to mention Tim Ream real quickly here. And what is Tim Ream, like 35, 36? I've never seen anything like Tim Ream. A guy who is getting better, extremely better. We've never seen a guy who's playing like he's 26, but he's 35 in the English Premier League. And you just ride this for the foreseeable future, right? And as long as he continues to play at that high level, he is your number one center back because he has all the passes, the positioning, and if he continues to hit those thresholds, he is the starting center back, as crazy as that sounds, in 2026. It's a long ways away, and the body starts to break down. But if it doesn't, which I think he has a shot at this, because I can't believe we're having this conversation at the age that he has had, that he's one of the better center backs in the Premier League. He's your number one. And then it all fills out. So I'm not going to get too bent out of shape why Richards and CCV. They mustn't have done anything to fall out of place. This is to get guys a look. Maybe you're giving them a solid to stay with their clubs to do a little better. Now, midfield, no Tyler Adams. The big conversations. Who can you get to be his backup as a number 6? Kellen, you're going to have to do something pretty significant to dislodge Kellen Acosta there, regardless of what you think. His versatility and what he can do with set pieces is a cut above anyone who's playing for that role. There are 2 guys in this camp that are having a shot to play for that role. Johnny Cardoso and Alan Sonora. And we can say a million things about these guys with what they have seen with potential. Potential's not going to cut it here. This is their chance. I don't think either one's going to be quite ready to displace anyone, whether it's Acosta or De La Torre. I saw Alan Sonora in the January camp. He is the one guy to me that sticks out on this roster that shouldn't be there. I don't want to pick on anybody. I can't believe he was in here. I mean, a lot of MLS teams were like, they were talking about him going to LAFC, and they found Timothy Tillman, and I'm like, I think I'd rather have Timothy Tillman. Alan Sonora, I hope he surprises us, but he just doesn't look like he fits right. And maybe that's it more than anything else, but I was surprised he was in there. I don't think either one of those guys are going to move ahead of Kellen Acosta, but I'd like to see it. So the Tyler Adams not being there is a good thing in this case. I think the U.S. will be fine in these games, especially since El Salvador is at home in Orlando. Should take care of Grenada on the road. They won't score 6, or maybe they will. Then we have the attack. Gio Reyna, obviously going to get some. Christian Pulisic, I don't think they're going to burn the tread off of either one of them. The big one here is Daryl Dike and Ricardo Pepi. Daryl Dike returning from injuries. Ricardo Pepi returning from not being selected for the World Cup. Both producing pretty well. Pepi much better, but playing in the Netherlands, although maybe the Netherlands probably a harder league you would think than the EFL Championship. Daryl Dike having some moments. Little up and down, but this is their chance. And this is a huge, huge issue for the United States. We have 5 or 6 excellent number 9s, but who is going to be a cut above? No one yet, right? You have these 2, Ricardo Pepi. You have, who am I forgetting? I already forgot. Ricardo Pepi, Daryl Dike, Haji Wright, who was on the World Cup squad, Josh Sargent. They had some nice moments, nothing great. Josh Sargent was the better of the bunch, but wasn't a finished product or a pure number 9. These are there are some other guys. Brandon Vasquez, FC Cincinnati. I'd love to see him get a longer look. Folarin Balogun is the one guy we really need. If none of these guys step up in 2023, and I think we need to find someone who can play that role. And Anthony Hudson did discuss that there have been conversations, or there's been connections with Balogun. He's on the radar, and we shall see if that comes to play. He has said, actually, I can give you the quote. He says, all I'll say is there is a dialogue with him and this team. Great news, because guess what? The U.S. are good at dual nationals. They're 2 for 2 with these European dual nationals in Dest and Musa. So that is a promising bit of news for the United States. But hopefully one of these other number 9s can seize the opportunity. We shall see. Tim Way is there. I think he'll get some. And they'll all spread it. But I would like to see DK start a game. And then I'd like to see Pepi start a game. Not in that order, but we'll figure it out. It's going to be great to see these guys back. First roster since the World Cup. First real competitive game since the World Cup. That's good. That's what we live for, right? Soccer OG. The Soccer OG podcast available where all podcasts can be found. We're here on the Soccer OG on YouTube under my name, Max Bretos. Like and subscribe. And we shall continue this conversation, getting ready for those games and recapping them. And whatever lies in between.